Hi, everybody. This is Kathy Madsen, and I'm here with Angie. Angie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My full name is Angelica Steinker. I am severely addicted to anything dog related. As a result, I have become a professional dog trainer. I have three different certifications: IAABC, PPAB, and then AABP also. And there are certifications in dog behavior consulting because, of course, dog training wasn't enough. And I love learning about dog behavior because, in my opinion, it's a never ending industry. There's always new things. And I think it's very exciting because we're talking about a new thing today.
Yes, yes. And as a fellow dog trainer and behavior consultant, I know that there's a lot of alphabet soup that happens with these certifications. But can you explain a little bit about what those letters mean for our audience?
So, there, unfortunately, dog training and dog behavior consulting are not a regulated profession. So people like you and I voluntarily opt to be certified, and that's what I did. And at first it was like smaller entities just kind of offering certifications, and then it became more organized entities offering certifications. And I've kind of been traveling along the path as all these certifications rolled out. And eventually, some of the organizations decided to offer behavior consulting, which involved submitting a case study and doing all kinds of extra work. And so I did that with three different organizations. And so I have three different certifications as a result.
Fantastic. And how long have you been in training and behavior?
20 years.
20 years. That's amazing. Amazing. So today we're going to talk about your experience with Calmer Canine. How
Mhm.
did you first hear about the Calmer Canine product?
A friend of mine sent me a link, so I would say social media, and she was like, What is this?" Like it was just kind of like question mark, question mark, question mark, and so I looked into it because, of course, I'm always curious and wanting to learn about new stuff, and then I found out that this type of thing was already being used in the dog sport world. I'm a agility person, and so I went to the agility community, and they tend to be pretty tough and not generally easy to please. And I said, "So, what do you guys think about the loop device?" And they were like, I mean, every single person that responded loved the loop device, found it to be extremely helpful, and was consistently using it with their dog. And I thought, well, there's something going on here because you that never happens. You just don't get that kind of a response with something that's training or behavior related, where literally every single person is pleased with the outcome. That seemed suspicious to me, so I had to check it out, and then I volunteered to be part of the initial pilot gathering of information as a beta tester. I should say Power and I volunteered. He consent tested, yes.
And tell me a little bit about Power.
So the beta test was specifically for separation related issues. Power doesn't really have separation related issues other than he complains when I leave. And the complaining is kind of a little bit with a smile on his face. So I think he's just kind of like, "No, mom does not leave." So I just said, well, maybe this behavior will lessen or something, because to be perfectly honest, I wanted in on the beta test. But Power does have anxiety about other issues. He's a border collie. And as many people know, border collies do have a tendency towards some anxiety. He has a concern about flying insects, and he has some OCD related behaviors.
Yeah.
And so I thought it'd be really fun to see if his anxiety would be affected by the canine calmer unit.
Yeah. And how long had he been showing those symptoms of OCD? Was it since puppyhood, or how long had you seen that with him?
So the bug issue, which I would say is OCD, has been since he was a little baby. So when he first came home, and it's quite manageable. You know, you just if there's a flying insect in the house, you make sure that you remove the flying insect, and so that's pretty easy. And even if he's outside and he hears like a buzzing, he might get worried, but he'd still always work because work first because he's a border collie.
Border collie.
Not really affected his ability to perform. But if I notice that my dog's a little uncomfortable about something, then obviously I'm always going to try to make his life experience as close to ideal as I possibly can.
Right.
So I've been very committed to trying to find ways to help him and make it better for him.
Yeah. And so, since you checked with the agility community
Mhm.
about the Assisi Loop, which is Calmer
Yeah.
Canine's parent company, Assisi
Mhm.
Animal Health, um,
Mhm.
and that is prescription only.
Mhm.
When you were looking at this Calmer Canine device, what did
Mhm.
you feel about it just because it was focusing on a different kind of issue, anxiety instead of pain and inflammation?
I think it would be really awesome to be able to share that this um, Calmer Canine research is not new, that it started many years ago in humans, that nurses that were assisting neurological patients, this is how it was explained to me, noticed that certain populations of clients that had severe anxiety would come out of the MRI unit with less anxiety. And that this then led to the use of the technology for anxiety, which I just think is so cool. I love it when science discovers things accidentally, and it's amazing how many times that's led to profound breakthroughs. And I believe that the Calmer Canine is going to present a profound breakthrough to us people who are doing dog training and behavior consulting, and to the general public. I think it's going to be amazing.
I agree. I think too, a lot of times, what gets forgotten is that physiological things in the body, things that are happening in the body affect behavior,
Correct.
so they're so closely related, and starting to address the anxiety issues we see with our dogs, OCD issues,
Yeah.
trying to think about what's happening in the brain, and
Yeah.
how do we address that? And
Well,
what tools do we have, so
and if I may jump in, I believe that our industry is obsessed with operant conditioning, and particularly with the consequences. So if you functionally analyze any specific set of circumstances to the A, the B, and the C, so you identify what is the antecedent, what happens before the behavior, what is the behavior, and then what is the consequence. Most dog trainers and behavior consultants only focus on consequences, and are blind to looking at things like antecedents. And of course, antecedents is in in my world everything I do. So if you can change the motivation by changing an internal setting event, you have changed that dog's world. And there's no need to even consider something as reactive as a consequence. You can work before the behavior ever occurs, which is how really all training and behavior change should be addressed, in my opinion.
that's such a great point. I tell my clients, if we do the A and the B, we don't get to the C, as far as what we're doing in that
Exactly.
operant conditioning.
Exactly.
So, and then sometimes too, I think trainers, consultants, we might forget that antecedents. It's more than just the environment.
Yeah.
It's things that are happening inside the dog. So that's such a great point that you made. So when you started with the Calmer Canine with Power, what symptoms was he exhibiting that you had in mind that you wanted to track throughout treatment?
Um, Mostly the OCD. He can get very kind of frantic about greeting people. He's very social, but he also has approach avoidance. So there's this conflict of, I really want to say hi to that person, but then, oh no, they might like bend over me, or, like I
They
don't really
might
know
touch
what they
me.
can do, or yeah, but I want them to touch me, but then, oh no, what if they touch me? So and if you know border collies, this is not an untypical set of traits for that breed. And
Right.
so I was just kind of curious, and I was really kind of focused on the OCD, but not really sure how it might help. And it to me was really fascinating because 3 days in, I thought I was going insane because Power is a very jealous little being. So if you like say touch another dog, he'll scream. When he first came home as a baby puppy, I immediately started with food sharing games and with physical touch sharing games. So I'd have his brother on one side of my body and I'd have him on the other side, and then I'd alternate petting each dog. And whenever I went to reach for his brother, he'd go, "Ah!" And I was like, the first time he screamed, I'm like, oh, he's got his foot caught in the couch, wedged behind a cushion, or he's laying on a bone, or you know what I mean? Like I thought there was like a physiological source for the pain. Nope. After I repeated that like 5 times, it was 100% happening when I touched his housemate dog. And so from that day forward, the journey began of trying to decrease Power's jealousy. And I did research, and in humans, jealousy is actually part of OCD. And
Interesting.
so that is why I refer to it as jealousy. And I'm also going to say that the burn studies of the dogs and fMRIs mirroring the same sections of the brain lighting up for love and for other emotional states. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say my professional opinion, jealousy exists. And in my professional opinion, it is part of OCD for some dogs, and it very much was so for Power. So yeah, so 3 days in, he's less jealous, and I thought I was losing my mind. Um, but of course, I wrote it down because I was determined to write everything down. About a week in, he got better about his concerns in the car. He has uh, concerns about riding in the car that I thought were like nausea related because he would salivate and just seem uncomfortable in the car. And a lot of that he seemed to just work through with exposure and lots of consent testing. So I would always take him to the car and say, like, even if we're going to the vet, if you don't voluntarily get in, we're not going. And just give him time to make the decision to get into the car or not. And he's always chosen to get in. So the moment of that decision has always been this hesitation. But when we did the Calmer Canine, he stopped doing that. I mean, he started to like run to the car and jump in. And I'm like, do, 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 do. Has my border collie been switched out for an exact duplicate? Um, and that stuck. I did the twice a day, 15-minute as instructed treatment for 30 days. And the so far it's held, although it's my understanding it may not. And I'm very happy to say that I have a Calmer Canine myself for my own dog's use, and that if he needs a refresher, I can use it. Or if I want to experiment with a different something. So then the other improvements were just like I was explaining to you, his concern about bugs, it decreased. We had had something really traumatic happen to us as a family. We had our home actually explode. So he had some anxiety, post-traumatic stress related issues, and those are not gone, but they're decreased. So what I'm seeing is anything that is anxiety related, it appears to work for exceptionally well. And lucky for me, obsessive compulsive disorder appears to fit that criteria.
That's amazing. And wow, that's a scary situation that you went through. I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad hopefully everyone's okay. And
Yeah.
yeah, just imagining going through that and then having to recover mentally from the trauma is difficult for both humans and dogs. So
And let me jump in there and say that I was talking to Dr. Sally Foote, who is a veterinary behaviorist that's also an enthusiast of the Calmer Canine. And she and I were talking about, is it possible to use it for specific circumstances? So, for example, if Power's reacting to one of the things that he had concerns about after the explosion was uh, fire trucks and ambulances. I mean, he just would freak out, crumble into a little puddle of a dog, and just shake and be very traumatized. So, what I'm wondering is, can I give him a treatment and then potentially expose him to that stimulus subthreshold and have a better session because because the sessions themselves seem to be very therapeutic to him. So
Yes.
do the actual sessions have the ability to help us use antecedent control to our advantage?
Yes. I in my experience, what I've seen, especially if you're working it correctly with the desensitization, the counter
Mm.
conditioning, again, you're starting sub-threshold.
Yep.
What I'm seeing with my clients' cases is that it's helping that dog stay under threshold longer and helping any of that behavior treatment, that counter conditioning stick.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm seeing it stick faster, and
Mhm,
then I'm seeing it especially with dogs who maybe need kind of retreatment, right? Reintroducing
mhm,
them to something,
mhm,
that either previously was fine and then they had an
mhm.
experience. After Calmer Canine treatment, I'm seeing that the process is faster.
So
Uh,
you're seeing an increase in resilience.
exactly. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a great way to put
Awesome.
it. So
Mhm,
yes, and especially for things noise related, that
mhm,
noise phobia,
mhm.
I definitely would
Awesome.
would recommend that. Uh,
Mm.
it's just gonna help all of our other tools work even better with our treatment plans and all of that. So, that's so great to hear about power though, because it's a lot for a dog's brain to deal with. And then having that tool, to be able to help him get back to where he was and feel better about that.
Well, it makes me enthusiastic about recommending the Calmer Canine to my clients because it helped my own dog, and it helped in things that I didn't even know it was going to help. Like, for example, the whole car thing or the whole jealousy thing. And just as you said, with the increase in resilience and the subthreshold work, what I noticed is rather than giving his brother the stink eye, he was suddenly totally fine with his brother, like directly next to him, which to me was like completely shocking data. Um, and so I'm like, okay, he's like laying on your head, and I'm here and I'm petting both of you, and there's no stink eye. Okay.
Just bringing families together.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Is your other dog, is his brother a border collie as well, or?
No, he is a 7-pound Papillon.
Oh, that's adorable.
Yeah. He's,
And so how long has it been since you finished your treatment with Calmer Canine?
uh, 2 months, I believe.
2 months, and you haven't noticed any regression in symptoms that you were tracking during treatment?
No, I've not, but I'm told that that may occur, and um, I'm ready for it because I have my own Calmer Canine.
You're ready to rock.
It.
That's so great. I wanted to kind of explore a little bit about your experience actually using the product.
Mhm,
When you first got it and you got that
mhm.
box and you opened it up, what were your first thoughts? Did you feel like it was easy to use, just, grab and go?
The first moment I saw it, I felt uh, like that whole thing I was saying before, where I would have loved to have had more information on the technology and how it works and what it actually is, because it just seemed disconnected from anything I had experienced previously. Then when I read the instructions, I was like, well, this is a pretty piece of cake, not really. And then I was like, well, let's see what my dog says. And so did the whole thing, connected it to him, turned it on, and then he was like really deep sleep, really relaxed, and seemed really happy. And I'm like, well, Power likes it. So then that made it easy. Like basically my dog sold me on it because he liked it. It seemed to soothe him. It seemed to elicit really deep sleep and really deep relaxation. And that made me really happy. So the treatments themselves were already increasing my dog's quality of life. So that was a beautiful thing already.
Yes. Oh, that's great. And did you use the vest that the device attaches to, or did you just do handheld treatment?
No, I used the device with the little landing pad, and I loved it. I thought it was really simple.
Great.
And, he could move around, which is really nice because with a CC loop, your dog can't move around. I mean, maybe they could. I don't know. I've always used it for shoulders. Um, dogs very frequently have shoulder injuries. Border collies specifically are famous for shoulder injuries. So if you're treating a shoulder, you can't really have him running around at the same time. And then recently I was treating him for a toe injury. So again, it's not really an option. So those treatments I do with my hand and him laying down, but with the Calmer Canine, it was always with the vest. And I loved this setup. I thought it was very well designed and very easy to do.
And what about the Calmer Canine treatment did you like the most?
That my dog liked it, and that 3 days in, I started to see interesting things.
Yeah. So it seemed really effective to you pretty quickly.
Yes.
Fantastic.
I think the changes that I saw about a week in were that's what we got. You know what I mean? Like I did the full 30 days because that's what I agreed to doing. And I wanted to comply with the beta testing instructions precisely. But yeah, and plus he liked the treatment, so there's no reason to not continue them. I was kind of sad to discontinue it. At the time, I didn't have my own Calmer canine, so I really had a hard time putting it in a box and sending it back. I was like, I really don't want to return this. I've agreed to it and I'm going to do it, but I this is benefiting my dog.
That's great.
And of course, I was incredibly curious how potentially benefit my clients.
Right. Yeah. Did you happen to use the anxiety progress tracker or the treatment log that Calmer Canine created throughout your treatment?
Yes.
Okay. Was that helpful for you? Is there anything you would add to that or change?
Well, I'm, a behavior geek, so of course I like writing things down. So I liked it. I think it is valuable, and I think it would be particularly important for pet people to at least be given that option. I think that many of them would not, but I think it makes the whole system look more complete. It's a tool of presentation, and I think it also reminds people to pay attention, you know.
Yeah. I think for my clients too, having some kind of tracker like that is helpful for them to see progress because
Mhm.
progress is their positive reinforcement, you
Exactly.
know? So it's a way for them to see, wow, this is changing because sometimes when we see a dog every day, we don't
Mhm.
see the small incremental changes that add up over time. So,
Yeah.
so
She had given me access to the video that was incredibly impressive. This was another, I think, really important way for me to learn about the Calmer Canine. There was a person who had two dogs living in the same household. They both had separation related issues. The person decided to make use of the Calmer Canine for one dog and not the other. And I'm very aware of the social learning dynamics that I think anybody who's had more than one dog is aware of, because if there's anything naughty that the first dog did, when you bring the second dog into the home, the first dog is more than happy to teach that behavior to the second dog right away. So, hey, this is where they keep the toilet paper, and this is where they keep the trash, and here's how you get into it, that kind of thing. So, social learning is a very, very, very profound mechanism by which dogs learn. And the video shows one dog clearly having severe separation anxiety. Well, actually, both the dogs clearly having separation anxiety. And then the post video shows the treated dog turning around when mom leaves, running out of the room to go lay down and taking a nap. Insert Angelica passes out cold. And the other dog, proceeding and eliciting displaying behavior consistent with separation related anxiety. And so these are dogs that are living in the same house that had the same problem One of them is clearly not affected anymore, and the other one continues to have it. I was blown away.
So for your behavior clients, when they come to you with an anxiety case,
Mhm.
what how would you introduce the Calmer Canine product to them and treatment system?
It's not a prescription tool, but I would not recommend it without asking them to contact their veterinarian and to get their veterinarian in on the loop. When people sign up for a behavior consult at my school, they give me permission to talk to their veterinarian. And so, what I would probably do is, for example, if it was a separation related consult, I would definitely want to talk about the Calmer Canine. And so I would probably contact the client and say, before we set up a session, you've already signed off on it's okay for me to talk to your veterinarian, but can we kind of start this in a different order than we normally do and have me talk to your veterinarian before we even do anything? And then that gives me the opportunity to talk to the vet. Most vets have no idea about the loop or the Calmer Canine. So I think I would be doing my client a much better service if I talk to their vet and I'm doing antecedent control with humans and making sure that their vet is on board and informed and knows about this product before I then go and recommend it, and then tell them to verify with their vet, and their vet's like, I have no idea what this is. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, having that support team too with the
mhm,
veterinarian and your behavior consultant
mhm.
and then the pet owner all around the dog supporting them, I think is so crucial, for especially anxiety treatment,
Yeah,
but helps with client compliance with the program that you're setting them up on too. It's so important for helping the dogs that come to
yeah.
us. Um, did you when you f I guess this goes back to when you were talking about when you first heard about the loop in the
Mhm,
agility world,
mhm.
and what were your first thoughts about the TPMF, signals? Because this is one thing that I know a lot of people ask me when they hear about it. They go, "Oh,
Mhm,
well, it's electromagnetic fields, or isn't
mhm,
that like a shock collar? Isn't that, electric? It's scary."
mhm.
What were
Yeah,
your first thoughts? And then as you continued to learn about it, what helped you really feel okay with that? Was it the human research that had been done or your own personal use of the product?
I would say it was both the human research and my own personal use, and I think the PEMF, technology in particular is a profound argument against shock collars. Um, why would you use such a violent tool, a tool that is scientifically exclusively used to study fear, um, ever? I mean, I don't understand it on an emotional level. I don't understand it on a psychological level, and I don't understand it on a behavioral level. In 20 years of working with dogs, I've never even had a vague thought that something like that might be helpful. The answers are always in, as you said so eloquently said earlier, using the A and the B. And if the B hasn't happened yet, there's this magical time period right before it that you can click, that you can, like Leslie McDevitt with her beautiful Control Unleashed program has shared with the world. Clicking mild stress responses and hijacking the chain prior to things going in the direction that we don't want. So I think that the Calmer Canine is going to contribute tremendously to humane training, to the improvement of dogs and owners' quality of life, and even to welfare, which we desperately need, especially in the dog training industry.
So one last question from me. Why would you recommend the Calmer Canine to owners of anxious dogs?
Because I think there is a very high possibility that it's going to make a tremendous difference in their dog. And if it's separation related, I think it's going to be the industry standard to help dogs. And I think with sound issues and obsessive compulsive disorder, We have not gathered data officially in those areas, but I think it's also going to be making a profound difference.
Is there anything else you wanted to share about Calmer Canine or your experience?
I have one client story. This is a little min pin, and he has been severely afraid of basically life as long as I've known him. He's 9 years old, and one of the biggest problems for his owner has been getting him veterinary care because he just has such a intense fear response that it just ends up being really punishing to the owner to take her dog to the vet and to put him through such severe stress. So she resorted to, of course, the logical thing, and would just, the vet gave her medication to give ahead of time so that her dog would just be chemically restrained. So he would, prior to arriving at the vet, be completely out of it, just flopping in her arms, and hey, that was the best we had, and it worked. So I had told her about Calmer Canine, and she got a unit, and she had just put it on her dog, and he seemed to like it, and he had run into a glass door and possibly injured himself. So it was like, we didn't know, like, is he okay or is he not okay? But he really, like, we thought maybe he'd hurt his neck, and obviously don't want to mess with any injuries to the cervical spine area. That could be very, very dangerous. So she took him to the vet and did not chemically restrain him. And he was scared, but able to function. The vet was able to touch him, which is amazing. That was never a possibility prior. The vet was able to open his mouth and discover that he had a broken tooth, which she'd never been able to open his mouth. And then, most shocking, one of the vet techs was able to take him out of my client's arms, and take him in the back for a laser treatment and give him a laser treatment. And as she was leaving, my client said the clinic was pretty quiet and everybody was like in a state of shock. And her vet promptly wanted to know, what is this Calmer Canine thing? Her vet is very involved in the fear-free, low-stress veterinary part of, which means that she wants to have her dog clients experience the least amount of stress. So she immediately wanted to be put in touch with Dr. Corman, which I facilitated, and makes me really happy because now there's another person out there that knows about this technology. And as a vet, she can make a profound difference.
Anything else you'd like to mention or like to get out there for people about Calmer Canine?
I think that I would say stay tuned, because I think there's going to be a lot of exciting information. I see this really making a tremendous difference with anxiety. And I don't think that it's understood how much it's going to help yet. And so it's going to be really exciting to see what else is in store.
Yes. Lots on the horizon. More
Ex-
dogs for us to help.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Angie, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.